this is all good.
We'll look back on it and be like,
Yeah.
one
All
of the
right.
first guests on the show.
Yeah. Well, ladies and oh yeah, one thing we have to remember to do is like try and look into the mic as good as possible because I'm not good at that.
Look into the camera.
Yeah. Just as like as much as possible. I'm not very good at that, but it's a work in progress.
Great.
All right. Ready. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the third episode of Table Talk. This is by far going to be the best episode we've had so far. I have the honor and privilege of talking with my longtime best friend and just all around great human being, Blake Chalfant. Blake?
Thank you for having me, my friend.
Of course, of course. Um, Blake, for a little backstory and context, Blake and me have been probably friends for ever since I can remember. Probably like 15 years. No,
Yeah.
yeah, about 15, 12, 15 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, we met playing soccer, and then ever since then, me and him have been best buds. Me and Blake went to University of Tennessee Knoxville for Blake went for a year, and I went for 2 years, and then we both transferred out. But to that, I wanted to say, Blake, if you want to give a little introduction on what you've kind of been up to the past couple of years and where we're going.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I guess for people who don't really know our background, me and Owen both grew up in a very protective, kind of wealthy southern town and kind of lived a very normal life of partying and going through the motions. And so I was kind of doing that same thing and always felt like I was going to be a businessman and have gates on my house and go down that path with a wife. And yeah, and just through a few different big experiences, kind of just realized how empty I was and unhappy I was. And that kind of began my search for something else. And I guess that looked like driving across the country to camp in someone's backyard for a summer in Washington. Um, and then being there for a few months, and then lived in Portland, Oregon for a few months, and then ended up finishing college in Santa Cruz in 3 years. And yeah, it's kind of just been a lot of searching and doing a lot of my own healing work and trying to find out who I really am and like really deepening on what the fuck the meaning of this life is and
Facts, man.
really trying to like find some answers that I feel like I was struggling with for a long time that I didn't really know I even had.
Yeah,
So
for
yeah.
sure. And I am not as deep as Blake is on his journey with self exploration, and I think that's going to be kind of the overall premise of this episode is self exploration and trying to figure out how to dive deeper into one's, psyche, emotions, family, friends, love, energy, all that stuff. And Blake, um, when Blake went and left Knoxville, um, it like honestly really affected me personally. I was like kind of, not following his path, but I definitely looked up to Blake in terms of like I always valued his opinions and what he was doing, and I looked up to him in a sense of like I want to be like him in, a physical. He was very, in shape at the time and spiritual way. I thought his mom, who many people obviously probably don't know on this podcast, is also a very spiritual self-evaluation type of person. She has her own podcast, right? What's that called?
The adult chair.
The Adult Chair. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But when Blake kind of went on his journey um, inward by leaving Knoxville and kind of going around, I also kind of took a step back and tried to look at myself and look what I was doing. And so I wanted to thank you, one, for inspiring me to also look inward. And Blake has been my main contact when it comes to like really trying to figure out what I want to be and what I'm meant to be inside, and not what all these other people, think Owen Kaufman is. And that's, like he said,
Mm.
been hard for me and him to try and break out of because we live in such a small town where everybody knows everybody. Um, and so, yeah, I just wanted to give a
Mm.
little homage to my best friend who, set me on the path I'm going now.
Yeah, brother. It's so funny. This keeps happening where it's like someone will tell me that they look up to me, and then, but the whole time I was like looking up to them, and
Yeah.
I would totally look up to you like since I was a little kid. So that's funny to hear. Um, yeah, and I think I just want to like give a little zoom out backstory before we kind of jump into this journey of self exploration, um, because I really just want to like kind of break the divide of the kinds of people who are doing this, and it is literally for anyone. It's not like someone has an issue so they need to go to therapy and find out who they are. It is every single human on planet Earth right now will 100% benefit from deepening their connection to themselves and starting to really find themselves. I mean, it so I really don't want to like turn people off by this like self-help therapy. Like I mean, what the numbers are growing so much of people doing this, and
If you would have
so
looked at us back in when we first went, started to try and do this, you would have been like these guys. There's no way. These guys are gonna end up really caring about themselves. Like
totally,
we were both in very bad places.
yeah, totally. And so what I really want to start out with is every species on Earth, humans as well, every time that we go through an evolution is when we are put under a lot of stress. It is literally stress that is driving evolution. A species is put under a lot of stress and they have to adapt, find new ways of being, new ways of surviving, new ways of thinking, I guess, for humans. And so you look at planet Earth right now, we are under so much stress right now.
Thanks.
Like obesity levels are the highest they've ever been, depression, anxiety. We're in like a mental health crisis. I don't really want to go too deep into like the planet's health.
Yeah,
I know people have different opinions about that, but
whole other episode.
our species is under probably the most stress it's ever been. And so there's a lot of people who are looking at that like, oh shit, we're fucked. And like a lot of people on the planet right now who are super hopeless. So like
Mm-hmm.
what's the point of self exploration? Like we're gonna be gone in 100 years or something. But on the other side of that is like there's so much potential. There's so much potential, and even though I feel like it's really easy to get super caught up in like we're just on planet Earth on another time, we are really being pushed into an evolution right now. We're being pushed into doing something different ways. Like you look at the statistics, clearly we are not doing something right.
I agree.
Whatever whichever way we're trying to live is clearly, I mean, just going back to those statistics I just talked about with obesity, depression, mental health, like we're clearly not doing something right. And so we're being asked to do something different. And I really believe that, this self exploration of actually connecting with ourselves, and yeah, is going to be a big piece of that. I think a lot of people are super out of touch with that, and it's causing a lot of illness mentally, physically.
What do you think is like the what do you think's like the number one thing that's like kind of making these issues occur in our society? Like, do you think it's social media? Do you think
Yeah.
it's pressure
Yeah.
from others?
Yeah, so I think that's a big question, and I also think we need to ask ourselves. First of all, we need to understand a bit about humans in general, how like our development and how we're being raised. And we really need to understand that our environment is completely everything. Like yes, certain people experience their environment differently and it manifests in them turning out differently, but we are quite literally products of our environment in such a big way. I mean, we come into this world and we are completely blank slates,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like everything about our environment when we're younger is programming us, is feeding our belief systems. Um, so yeah, I want to touch on more of that later and go into that deeper. But to answer your question, I think it's really we need to ask, okay, so the culture we live in, what do we value in our culture?
I think we
And
value a lot of really stupid shit, honestly.
I would agree with that.
Like,
And my answer to the question which I just asked you is we value a lot of things the way that we've been living are coming out with with like I said, the mental health crisis, like obesity, all those things is the product of how we've been living. And I think the product of how we're living in a lot of ways is the result of what our culture is breeding. And so we have to ask, like, what does our culture teach us to aspire for?
Wealth.
Our wealth, success, all these external factors. There is no, our culture does not say, okay, here is a human being. How can we make them as happy as they can possibly be? How can we completely, like, how can we bring them more connection to themselves? How can we put this human in a situation where they feel really passionate about what they're doing? We're literally being pooped into a system that is kind of just trying to um, like we're just another piece to capitalism.
Yeah.
We're just trying to be another piece of this huge machine of pumping out more money and more advancements. And so I think that's a big reason that we're seeing a lot of this, the results.
Well, and what's interesting too is I had a conversation with a friend the other day, and I came to him and I was like, dude, I don't I can't keep doing the going out and drinking. You call it living for the weekends, which I've really liked that term you've coined. But like, I told him I was like, I can't keep doing it. It's exhausting for me. I feel like I'm not getting any genuine connection with others, and I want to prioritize myself. Like, for example, like I want to wake up on a Saturday morning and I want to go work out for 2 hours. I want to go hit the sauna. I want to maybe go on a walk. I want to do very productive things for myself that I have interest in. And this friend kept trying to, you know, say, "No, I know you, and you want to go out like that. You want to go out and you want to be around people. You just can't handle your alcohol." And so I was like, "Okay, yeah, maybe I can't handle my alcohol, and I know I can't, but I don't think that's the root of the issue. I think the root of the issue is like if I want to do something, I should feel like it's just like I should feel like I should be able to do it." And I felt like society's pressure right there in that instance to be like, "Oh, I guess I should be going out then, and even if I'm not getting fucked up, I should be doing something that I don't want to be doing." And that's just
Mm-hmm.
not okay because why would I that just is not
Totally.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That you're touching on something that I think we really should come back to, which is one of the big challenges when you're on this journey of self exploration, which is everyone in your environment, who do they think you are? They all have this identity for who Owen is. And at some point, what we do with ourselves is we actually try to be the person that they see us as. Instead of being the person who we are, we would rather be the person that other people see us as, because in doing that, we're actually helping them feel comfortable.
I don't think people.
See, when
Sorry.
you talked about doing something that was actually really good for you, maybe they actually thought that just wasn't you, but also they're projecting their own identity of who you are onto you. And that was such a challenge for me on this journey, was letting go that people are going to be surprised and maybe a little bit uncomfortable with who I am. You think about
For
it like this.
sure.
Think about it like this. And this is something that I feel like I need to explain a little bit, which is, so inside of our minds, right? We have all these thoughts, and we are having so we have a conscious mind and we have a subconscious mind. So our conscious mind is the part of my mind that I am using right now to talk to you. It is the thoughts that I'm having as you're talking to me. It is the decisions I'm making right now. And so if you think about the surface, and then way down here is like the foundation, our conscious mind is the surface and our subconscious mind is the foundation. And the subconscious mind is the parts of us that we really don't have access to, like right now. but it is the roots of our entire conscious experience. And so if I go into a job interview and two people go into the same job interview, one person goes in thinking that they're going to get the job, they already feel like they got the job, like, because that's just how they roll. Another person goes in and they're just crippling anxiety because they think they're about to get rejected and how could they ever get this job? That is because they have different subconscious beliefs about who they are. One person might think might one person might think they have really positive beliefs about themselves. Like, I'm a successful human being, I get things that I want. The other person might be like, I'm never enough. I'm a failure. Those different subconscious beliefs about who they are going to affect their everyday experience.
I feel like that's
That,
kind of what I've been struggling
that
with.
makes sense?
Yeah, no, that's what I've been
And
struggling with.
and so where I'm going with that is I think about everyone who's living their lives. It's basically like we're all living in the same world, but we basically have VR goggles on. And we're all playing a different game, and it is entirely based on our subconscious mind. All of our beliefs about who we are, all of our beliefs about the world, it's affecting the way we're seeing everything. And so in that though, I have a belief about who you are.
Hmm.
We all have identities for who we are, for who our peers are. And so I'm basically seeing a movie through these VR goggles of my life. And as soon as you start to change, my movie starts to change, right? Because you are an actor in my movie of life. And that makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think like when uh like you started to not, go out all the time in Knoxville, and like we would kind of, and I started not to as well, and I started to work out with you, and then like we'd kind of hang out, and you started to go climb. A lot of people that were like we were friends with at the time were kind of like, whoa, like what is Blake doing? Like Blake's kind of a weirdo. And then when you went off to Washington, it was like Blake's really a fucking weirdo.
Right.
And I won't be,
No,
I
I mean,
wouldn't lie if I didn't think that for a little bit at some point
totally.
myself.
um, and that was definitely a big thing for me was like, dude, I was people asking me like, "Hey, you going out tonight?" When I was like trying to not do that now.
Yeah,
It made me so fucking uncomfortable, and I would try to like kind of like brush it aside. It was so hard for me to just directly be like, "No, I'm not doing this because I don't really enjoy doing that anymore." I would be like, "Oh no, I can't. Like I have homework or
well, that's
something."
what I tried to fucking
Because
say
it's
to my friend, and he's like, "It's not because you don't enjoy it; it's because you can't handle your shit, blah blah blah, and you're anxious and you have social anxiety." I'm like, well, I mean,
yeah,
what if I do have a little bit of social anxiety and I don't want to be around a bunch of people?
yeah,
And I much rather, hang out, get a good night's rest, and go kill it during the day tomorrow. You know,
yeah,
what's wrong with that?
right. And I just want to say that there is definitely a balance. And I'm not trying to shit on anyone who ever drinks alcohol or ever goes out. I think you can do that and be a really healthy human being. But I think that there's a balance. And I think that personally, the way that I was doing it was a huge escape. And I was doing it because that's what I thought I should have done. And deep down, I really wasn't craving that. So
Same.
it wasn't for me. And I think there is a balance. And also, a lot of people are out of balance with that.
I
So,
think there's definitely a balance for that, and I feel like for me, it was an escape as well. It's a mental escape, a physical escape, whatever you want to say, but like that ended up internally like making me feel like I put my identity in what other people wanted me to be. Like
mhm,
how in high school how I was like very outgoing, whatever, and I've become a little like more reserved, I'd say, over the years, and like
mhm,
in terms of what I like to do and who I surround myself with. And I feel like some people are slightly reluctant to see me change, and it's frustrating because it's kind of not holding me back, but like it is tough when I have these preconceived voices in my head being like, "Oh, you know, I know someone's going to be either judging me or,
yeah,
you know,
totally. Yeah. Um, I feel like I want to speak to something that you're touching on, which is a huge reason that people aren't doing this, that aren't exploring themselves, and that aren't really going down this journey. And that is that evolutionarily, we have parts of us that are always seeking comfort over discomfort. And so, just to explain that a little more, going back to our ancestors, seeking comfort was so beneficial for us, right? Because what is in uncomfortability and change? It might be a saber-toothed tiger that's waiting to kill us. What is in comfort? It's
Fire.
it's it's fire. It's hunting and scavenging in areas that we know the land of. It's doing everything that's known to us, right? It's doing things that we're used to, that we've done before, and so it becomes comfortable. And so humans evolved so quick as a species that those same parts of our brain are still active. And so the difference, though, is that we're not living in a culture where we are hunting and scavenging. And we're not living in a culture where we are having to worry about tigers. It's a very different world, but those same parts of us are still active. And so we're still always seeking comfort, right? And so what is comfort? Comfort is things that we know. It's our familiar it's things that are familiar to us. And so that's why when you're trying to change like that, it is so unfamiliar and it's so uncomfortable because to that part of your mind, you don't know what the fuck is waiting for you on the other side of change. You know the environment though when you're the old own. Everyone knows you as that. It's comfortable. Even though it's unhealthy maybe and you're actually not happy, to
Hmm.
that part of you that's seeking comfort, it's happy. And so as soon as you start to change, what you're doing, you're opening a doorway into a whole realm of unknowns. Who knows if your friends are going to accept you or not? To that part of your brain that's seeking comfort, it's like, fuck no, don't do this. You're going to be rejected by your environment. Your tribe is going to abandon you. So it's so it does everything it can to resist that. And so I also want to say that to anyone who's listening and is feels uncomfortable as hell to what we're talking about, and to anyone who I guess is just leaning up against uncomfortability in their life when they maybe are trying to change a habit or trying to embody part of themselves that they've repressed for a long time, like uncomfortability is very normal, and actually
Very good for you.
it can be a good sign that you're on the right track,
Yeah.
because there is a part of you that will always seek the comfort. That's why when you I think a lot of people can relate to this example. When you see a couple who is so unhealthy and everyone on the outside of the pair is like, why are you guys still dating? Like, why are you guys still together? You're like, it clearly is not working. Why are you doing that? He treats you like shit. Why are you doing that? Why don't you leave him? It's because it's comfortable. We've gotten so used to it. And there is a whole realm of unknown if we're going to leave this person. So it really shows up everywhere in our life.
I saw I this thing I saw this guy talk about like um when you decide to make change, and like there's three levels. It's like when you're doing really well, you're not gonna like like this isn't a perfect world. Like if you're extremely happy, you feel like you're fulfilled. Obviously, the place we're trying to constantly get to, right? If we ever reach that point, you're not going to change, right? But in the middle, if you're comfortable enough, you're also not going to change. Like
Mm-hmm.
that like satisfaction of just like being okay
Yeah,
is like really scary. But if you're fucking rock bottom and you feel like shit, you're gonna make a change. And I feel
yeah.
like we both were at that lower tier and made a change. And I think for me at least, when I made my first, big change, which was transferring schools and leaving all my friends and having to try and, figure out the world a little bit more on my own, um, I was pretty comfortable. But I think that in this time, like you said, there was so much unknown when I opened that door that the scariness and the unknown that I've been working through, the conversations that we try and have pretty regularly, are
Mm-hmm.
very healthy. Like the unknown that I have in my head about what I'm gonna do next, or where I see myself in 4 years, 5 years, if I'm gonna get a job, where am I gonna live next year, type stuff. Like those are all really good things to be talking about. because if I were to not have chosen that original step, I'd probably be in Knoxville still, you know, drinking
Yeah.
my life away 4 days of the week and doing drugs like
Yeah.
all the time, miserable, but had this facade that I was okay.
Yeah.
So, like you said, if anybody's listening, if you I have been there, Blake has been there. If you
Mhm.
are feeling like it is scary, it is like
Yeah.
it
It's supposed
is
to be scary.
it is like transferring
Yeah.
schools and having no friends and like living by yourself, which is what I'm doing right now. Like can be tough, and there are
Yeah.
very, very, very tough things about it, but you will learn more about yourself going out and being in a discomfort state than you would ever being like content with what you're doing at the moment.
Yeah. Love that. The image that comes to mind when you're saying that is like someone who's swimming in a pool but is like holding on to the side of the pool like for dear life and won't let go of the side or swim or anything. And I think that's how a lot of humans are living life. They're just sitting on the side of the pool and they won't let go. And they're terrified of what happens when they let go and just dive into the middle of the pool.
Yeah.
And, you know, that pool really feels like change. Um, and yeah, I've never heard someone break down the levels of someone who's going to change, but I love that. And I think definitely I was at that lower end that forced me to change. And, it was definitely a lot of playing with that. I would go back down here and then I would come up here and think, oh no, I don't need to change. I'm okay. And then I would
Yeah.
go
It's a
back down and
constant teetering.
right until you really hit a spot. And I think there's probably a lot of people who compare themselves to people who are at rock bottom and they're like, oh, I don't need to change. Like I'm not like that. I don't have crippling depression or I'm not suicidal. I don't need to change. And so I guess I'm saying this to all the people who are in the middle, all the people who are comfortably just going through the motions and are kind of doing it well. Like, and this is actually something I wanted to touch on, which is the hard part about this is that there is actually parts of our culture that are rewarding certain behaviors that are going to keep people from not wanting to change. Take someone who is a workaholic, for example, right? They never are with their family. Their family life is horrible, but they're working all the time and they're making all this money. What is our culture going to say to that?
Oh,
Our
you're a
culture is going to
beast.
celebrate them, right? They're going to be celebrated.
You
So
drive a BMW, bro. You're
why would
sick.
why would they ever change? And that's a big thing for a lot of people is that we're getting validated by our environment. Like you're making your friends laugh. You feel like you're a part of this. You're going out on the weekends. You're getting with the girls. You're getting with the good looking girls, and then your friends are giving you an
Sometimes.
applause. Your your friends are giving you like high fives for it, and they're like, "Oh hell yeah, you're awesome!" And you're the life of the party, and now you have this job that you have lined up that is going to make a lot of money, and so you're checking every box of our environment. And at the end of the day, we are tribal creatures. We're just trying to fit into a tribe. And so when your entire tribe is giving you high fives and like saying good job, why the hell would you ever change?
Yeah.
I mean, really, there's so many people who are sitting in that comfort, and then they kind of live their whole. I think they live their lives pursuing those forms of pleasure and fulfillment in life, like the money or all these external things. And I think they're fun for a while, but they're not sustainable.
I mean, I just
They're not.
couldn't imagine like I don't know if it had to be probably our parents or something, because I would say like our parents are relatively similar for the most
Hmm.
part with whatever. But I don't know what prompted me to think this way. Um, but like I just don't think I could be like how much regret would I have if I did that? If I went that traditional route, like how much regret would I have like on my deathbed?
Yeah, I think a lot of people get that. A lot of people
Yeah,
have these midlife crises of like, fuck, I'm not happy. I'm cheating on my wife. I'm an alcoholic. Like something is not going right. And you know, and this is such a big part of this journey that I wanted to touch on is at some point you're gonna have to start asking the big questions, right? Like, like who am I? And like, what do I actually want to do in life?
I think the first question though that you if you're going to go on this self exploration journey that you have to ask is like a genuine honest question is not who am I, because
Yeah,
that takes a long time.
that's
I
a big
think
question.
that's a big question. I think the first question which made me really think is either my mom asked me this or someone asked me this. She was like, "Are you happy?"
Yeah,
In a very, very, very serious context, and my first answer, my first thing that popped into my head was absolutely not.
yeah,
Like I'm miserable.
totally.
And then I think once you realize you're not happy in any scenario, whether that's you're not happy with who you are, you're not happy with your surroundings, you're not happy with your friends, I think any part um, of you that can recognize that something is wrong is a first step in going towards that who am I deeper
Right.
inner looking.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I knew you were gonna say that. Who am I is definitely a hard question. But those
Yeah.
questions are fucking scary. Like
They're kind of
you
awesome
talk
though.
about I mean, I feel like you're an odd case, but for most people, even the thought of having that question is like, oh hell no, I'm not going down that route because there's so much uncomfortability in that.
Yeah.
What's on the other end of asking those questions is actually maybe making the change. And so
Yeah.
those same the comfort seeking parts of us are going to resist even asking those questions. So I think most people at some point in their life think about them and they keep forcing them down. They would rather look the other way their entire life than ever look at that. And so to me, it's like, what the fuck is the point of living life if you're just going to be hanging on the side of the pool the whole end?
That's what
Like
I'm saying, bro. And that's kind of
not
wild.
gonna die from doing this. Like you might lose some friends, but if they're not gonna support you as you're like learning who you really are,
Yeah.
who cares? Those weren't the people, and that's something that I realize so much now is like I still get like a knot in my stomach from talking to some people from that I used to hang out with
Same.
because I'm terrified that like, oh shit, are they gonna like accept me for who I am? And what I'm realizing is like most of the people like they liked me for who I was in the beginning. Like even though I was wearing all these masks, like there was something about me that they liked, and
Charisma.
it had nothing to do with how fucked up I got or anything.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think I'm starting to kind of realize that, you know, there are parts of me that I used to think that were big insecurities that I'm starting to maybe learn that are advantages to my personality, and I'm trying to withdraw those and be comfortable in those.
Yeah,
There's also things about myself that if I look back and looked at it, I'd be like, I hated that, and I'm trying to work through that and not be like that anymore. And when I
yeah,
have people who don't support me in that, it's very frustrating because I feel like when I have people who don't support me in that, and I have a very small group of people who would always support me, it's kind of hard to like go out and like make genuine connections with new people because you have this kind of like preconceived surrounding that everybody had already kind of rejected you, and that's why like you have a very small circle. Do you know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah. I do.
Like for you, like is it difficult for you to go out and make like really good new friendships with people that accept you?
Yeah, I mean that's a big question, um, but I think we are definitely in the minority in what we're talking about, and so I think I think most people actually I think every human being on planet Earth actually craves to be authentic in who they are. They crave deep down they want to take the fucking masks off and just be themselves. Deep down, we all just want to be held in safe relationships with people. We want to be around people who accept us fully for who we are. And so to find those kinds of people, yeah, it's definitely harder than finding other kinds of people because in my opinion, that is kind of the evolution that our species is being forced into right now. Is
NPCs.
deeper connections with ourselves. And something that you just spoke to that I want to touch on is the way like all of our beliefs about who we are is going to affect the way we're seeing everything. And so, as I'm talking about how scared I was of being rejected and stuff, and how you are too, deep down, that's because at some level, parts of us, we are rejecting who we are. Like, we don't think that actually, yeah, we reject parts of who we are. I mean, and largely that's because of our environment and how we've been conditioned about who we're supposed to be. And we're terrified. We're like, oh shit, they're not going to like this about me. But yeah, it's definitely hard.
Yeah.
But it can be challenging. I don't think it has to. I think when we can fully accept ourselves, it makes being accepted by others a whole lot easier. And I can assure you that it's worth it.
So I'm looking at the paper you sent me,
Yeah.
um, and I feel like we've gotten to what holds us back. This we just kind of talked about, and now searching.
Yeah. Um,
What constitutes searching in your mind?
hold on. Can we rewind a little bit?
Yeah, we can rewind. No, yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
just, I
I
was
wanna
just,
I wanna save that, and I just want to build up the foundation a little bit more with who we are, and I guess why we are the way that we are. I guess just how we're shaped as humans,
Mhm.
right? I think there's a lot of people who, in this moment of who we are right now, they're just like, oh yeah, this is just who I am, and there's no changing it. Like people see them as that's it. There's no other. There's no other way of being. This is just it. And like, do you think that when you were born onto planet Earth, you thought to yourself, I'm not enough, or I'm so scared to fail. What if I fail? That's not going to be enough. Like, fuck no. We come in to this Earth a blank slate. We come in whole throughout all of our experiences growing up, everything our parents said to us when we were a child, all of our experiences when we were largely being shaped, our brains are being shaped, our beliefs about who we are in the world are being shaped. We're still little children walking around holding all of those beliefs. And so I want to say that because we are so malleable as humans. Don't have to be at the mercy of all those things. Like you take the person who grew up with an abusive father who sexually abused them and all of that trauma that they've carried from that, like they can release that and move on because guess what? That's not who they are. And I know that's an extreme example, and this is something that's really good too that people need to understand is that there is big T traumas, which is the classic going to war, you come back with PTSD or you've been abused or and I think there's a lot of us who are like, oh yeah, trauma, I don't know a thing about that. Like I grew up in a fire environment. And then there's little T trauma, which is what most people living on planet Earth are experiencing. And that is the product of continually living completely out of touch with who we are, com- living very isolated with without deep connections, and it's the people who are having to put on the masks, having to abandon themselves. And so I think a lot more of us than people believe experience it that way. um, and so I guess I just want to share a bit about my own story for people who may have known me as a person or people who even haven't, which is I'm still doing so much work around my belief that I'm not enough. And how that happened was probably around middle school time when what my brain did was said, okay, this is the environment that I'm in. And then I assessed, okay, so what are the desired traits of an environment? I know we're humans and we're civilized, but we are still animals and we are still trying to survive in our environment. So I'm in this middle school environment, right? What are the desired traits in middle school?
khakis.
They're wearing the right things that is accepted by an environment. It's saying the right things. A lot. I mean, for my friend group, it was making people laugh. It was don't be a pussy. It was keep your shit together. It was be a hard ass. So, in what was it not? What was not the desired traits? Really, for me at least, it was being who I am, being authentic, sharing how I felt, acknowledging my emotions, really the things that make you a healthy human being. And so I realized very quick that if I wanted to thrive in this environment, I was going to be someone else. I was going to put on all these masks. And what signal does that say? What?
Sorry, I'm thinking.
You're good.
I'm
You're
laughing
good.
about something.
What signal does that send to my belief system? It is that I am not enough for who I really am. So I'm going to wear all these masks to be someone else. And I did that for years.
Oh yeah.
I did that for years. So now I'm finally peeling back those layers and I'm like, all right, what does it look like to live a life where I feel like I'm enough? I don't have to prove myself by being someone else. And an example that actually was coming to mind.
I have one.
Do you have something to say?
I was. That's why I was laughing. I wasn't laughing at what you were saying. I was laughing at you being someone else. Do you remember when I gave you so much shit for having the LSU club head cover?
Yeah,
Because I know you didn't give a shit about LSU. It was only because everybody else liked LSU.
yeah.
That's just what came to mind.
It's funny. Um, and that's a great example because I bet at some degree that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I can't remember to say
What, me
that,
giving you shit for that?
and I know that's a small. I mean, I guess that's not
No,
a good example,
it definitely did.
right?
You were pissed.
I
You
mean,
were pissed at me.
and that's not a great example to use, but the example that I use a lot is being left out, right? Like not getting invited to the place that all of your friends are going. Like that
Sleepover.
fucking kills. When you're the one that's not invited to your friend group's house and you're left out, that fucking kills.
Mm-hmm.
But in at that age, how many of us felt safe enough to you think I felt safe enough to be like, "Hey, Owen, like I just really wanted to express to you that when you didn't invite me, it like really fucking hurt."
No,
And
I would have
I
called
need
you.
to tell you that
We would have called you a
I would have gotten
pussy.
right. And so the signal that we tell ourselves that sends to ourselves is that okay, it is not safe to feel my emotions because they're gonna get shut down, and that actually if I want to survive in this environment, I need to stop feeling my emotions and put on this mask that I have it all together. And so that affects us in such a big way.
Yeah, that's
Like
brutal to
talk
hear
about
about
you
it
talk
thinking like
about
that.
talk about young men growing up today. We're all fed that same story. Don't be a pussy. And you know what we're fed by our environment is that it's not safe enough to feel our emotions. Most of us don't hang out with people who can receive that, right? And it's uncomfortable. Like most people, if I was gonna say that to someone in middle school, dude, it would make you uncomfortable as fuck. You'd be like, what do I say? Like I don't even know how to deal with this. And that's one of the big problems with our culture is that we have no education around any of this. How to relate to each other as humans in a healthy way. We know nothing about that. We spend our time memorizing presidents of the United States because we think that's more important.
Dude, I just thought about it. That actually is insane to think about, like middle school, like the most probably like it's middle school and high school. Like not because I know that like your early developmental stages of like when you're very young and you're kind of like getting that first big shock of the world with your parents is very um, important. But like once that's kind of happened, you're already kind of set in stone of who you are. And once you get to middle school, is really when you start to like get other kind of inputs from other people. Is like that's insane to me that they just throw us into middle school and expect us to come out normal.
Dude, it is such a fucking hard time.
That
And I
is
feel like
absurd.
this past year, I've really been diving into that time with myself because just like realizing, holy fuck, that is like right kind of at the brink of it feels like when we're starting to really develop like maybe a sense of who we are and like we're starting to find our way in the world. And then we're throwing into this massive environment where we're all trying to fit in. That's all we're trying to do. We're all just trying to fit in and be accepted. And so the majority of people, like high percentage of people, what that means is putting on all these masks and abandoning who we are. And so, and most people are still the product of that environment.
Oh,
Most people are still wearing these masks. Most people still won't acknowledge how they feel because they don't feel like it's safe and we don't know how to share. Like that's most people. And so that's why this self-exploration journey that we're coining as today's show is so important because it is affecting you in every way possible. It is the lens you are seeing life through. Like it just boggles my. I know it's uncomfortable and scary, but like God, like let's take these masks off and fucking like live in our rawest version of who we are. Like that is life without the guardrails. That is swimming in this pool of life freely. And God, I mean, I think people who are saying no to that, it's like they're saying no to that because it's fucking uncomfortable and scary, and it feels easier just to stay in their comfort zone, right? And so, I mean, God,
Middle school, dude. Oh
middle school is crazy.
God. I mean,
And here's another caveat of that is when we're in that environment where it's like most of us are really deeply unfulfilled and most of us are actually having to repress. Most of us deep down actually feel a lot of pain on the inside. There's because we're shitholes to each other in middle school. First of all, we're so mean to each other, and we're constantly like, okay, I just got rejected by this person. I got accepted by this. This interaction went well. This interaction didn't go well. Like there's so much shit going on. Like it's kind of an emotional shitstorm, to be honest. And so, what do we do to find pleasure? Most of us in middle school, like, what do we do to find pleasure and like some sort of escape from this whole shitstorm? We watch a ton of porn. Like, I think, I
oh
mean,
no.
I started watching. I don't want to open up this huge can of worms, totally, but
We can save that
I
for
started
another
we
episode.
I started watching porn in fifth grade, so it was a bit younger.
Didn't
It
I
was
show you your first porn
yeah,
video?
yes, you did. It was a bit younger for me, but I think middle school is really the age that middle school is the age where most people start watching porn. And so some people will be like, "Oh, porn was just I just like unluckily got addicted to it and I just got hooked." No, we watch porn because it fills this fucking void inside of us with so much instant pleasure. We're
Mm-hmm.
like, I feel no pleasure from life right now. Actually, life's pretty fucking painful, and I feel really lost. Porn is the answer, and then it's. I mean, it's. I think porn a lot for middle school.
Drugs and alcohols, high
Drugs,
school
alcohol, work, all those
work.
things. Any
Dude, that
sort
is
of escape.
that is kind of crazy though. How some people rather work all the time. Like I get like obviously we both can get how porn, alcohol, and drugs like is a good escape. Not a good escape, but like you
It
know
works.
it
Yeah.
works very well. I don't. I like that boggles my mind as to how some people work more to escape like their reality.
Like workaholics.
Yeah, like some
Yeah, I
people
mean
who,
it's
when they have a family, they work more to stay away from their family because they hate their life so much.
yeah. I mean addiction it can look so many different ways, but it's really like anything that is distracting you from how you actually feel deep down.
Like
So it
video game
video
addiction.
games, social media, shopping addiction, like it can look so many other ways.
I didn't think about
Um,
that.
uh, yeah, it's in just a phrase a quote from Gabor Mate, who was like the man on all this stuff that I love is um, addiction is not the problem. Addiction is the solution. And so our society will say, "Oh, you're an addict. You have a problem. The problem is the addiction, right?" But what's causing the addiction? The addiction is just something that is soothing all the pain on the inside. The addiction is the solution to the pain that we're feeling.
It's the
So
visible effects of
the
what's
problem
happening
is
inside.
what's going on inside. Yeah, so I really love that.
But you could make good, I guess, addiction. Well, addiction is a negative connotation. I was
Hmm.
about to say you could make good addictions, but then I don't. Maybe better habits you form.
Yeah, definitely.
But, um,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I think that'll kind of wrap up like I guess why we are the way that we are. All those little things, all the little things of your dad, your parents celebrating you when you did good in soccer or something, right? So over time, you realize that you get validation when you do good in soccer.
Or when you do
What
shit.
is but what is that? What signal does that send to you? It's like I do good. I do like I get rewarded when I do something good,
Yeah.
but also that sends a signal of I'm not enough when I'm as I am not enough as just who I am. I have to do something good to be validated for who I am. Does that make sense?
No, it does. Do you think that there's an opposite side to that? Is like that validation and that push towards like people being successful and like whatever, like where would like if everybody was on the spiritual journey, would things get done? Are there people that just have to
That is a great question,
have to live
and
that lifestyle and take the
and
L?
and just I want to preface like the word spirituality has a lot of negative connotation. So I don't want to like set up this conversation and say that this is a spiritual conversation. This is really just a conversation about fucking health.
Yeah, no,
You can call it spiritual. You could call it fucking religious.
it depends on,
It,
yeah, of
it, it
course.
really depends
I
on the
say
lens,
spiritual
but
just because I was.
I mean that's a big thing called spiritual bypassing, where people are like, oh fuck, I don't need to do anything. I'm just gonna live in la la land and never do anything productive. And so that is an issue of like the people who say like, well, nothing matters, right?
Yeah.
What's the point of this? Nothing matters. But something else to go along with that validation that our culture sees a ton and is super interesting is, so take two people who have the belief deep down that they're not enough. There's one person that walks around the world that you might have in your mind that is just like always moopy and like always just sad and, oh, I'm not enough. And then there's the other person who tries to compensate their entire life for the fact that deep down they don't feel enough. And so what are these people? These can be CEOs. These can be the people who, some of the people who are making the most money in the world, the people who are chasing that endless dragon of external validation. But deep down, they just don't feel like they're enough. So their whole life, they're trying to compensate for that. And that's really important because it's a universal phenomenon for these beliefs we have about ourselves, is that they can show up in different ways. And some people are driven by them and they're trying to compensate for that. And so I think to all the people who are saying, well, that's not really that bad, look at all this that they've achieved. It's like, yes, and deep down they really don't feel like they're enough. And I think that is that's the gold right there. Who cares about what job you have or how much money you make if deep down you feel so fulfilled with who you are? And they can be together. I mean, I'm on this journey and I want to make good money. Like I want to be successful, and I don't I don't want to do that just to make money. Like money comes after doing something that I'm really passionate about. But I just I don't want to say that doing this journey means you're just gonna abandon like
Wealth.
any sort of drive to wealth or anything. I
Yeah.
mean, look at Aaron Rodgers is a great example. He just came out about all he's on this path. He's on this
He's
path
not
of,
having a good season this
of
season.
I haven't even heard on that, but
They've lost like
you know
five
it's
games in a row.
oh god. But I think what really boggles my mind too is that there has been so many top thinkers, people who have made tons of money, who are extremely successful, that will come out and talk about how the money didn't matter, how the money was not what made it. It was doing something that they were super passionate about. One example comes to mind. Barry Sanders is not, I don't think, the person, but one of retired, one of the running backs, one of the all-time great running backs. I'll find it. You can put on the show notes or something to talk about it. But after winning the Super Bowl, he like almost committed suicide.
Hmm.
Um, and it's, I don't know, that just speaks so much to me about like, it's not the external shit. Like these people that you think are doing so well because that's what our culture celebrates, is success, fame, wealth. It's like we look at these people and they're like, oh yeah, they must be doing great. Look at all the money they have. Look at this success. Look at the fame. It's like
Like Robin
a lot
Williams.
a lot of these people are so depressed.
Yeah.
Um, sorry. I think it's time that we do a little transition, huh?
Into what?
Into more of the lighter aspect of this conversation with, what can this actually look like? The searching part of it.
Get in the gym, baby. No, I'm joking. No, but maybe, I mean, for me, that was the first part, was like getting my physical health in check. That's
Yeah,
that's well, I feel like I kind of started on the wrong like kind of thing, because like I first thought it was like my physical health that was holding me back from being confident and being this like good,
mm,
person that wants to go talk to people and feels comfortable with my like self. And I was like, a visual thing is like, oh, I'm fat. Like
yeah,
let's fix that, and then everything's gonna be fine. When in
right.
reality, and you said that you knew that wasn't the issue when I was doing
Yeah,
that.
I knew it immediately.
Yeah, But like, and so I kind of started with that, and now I'm just now, kind of realize. I mean, I have been realized that for like a year, but like, you
Yeah.
know, there are
Yeah.
emotional things that I've been trying to work through now.
Right.
So it's still,
It,
I am just at the
yeah.
start, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Like,
I am a little bit further in, but I'm no master here talking about it. I'm just telling you what's worked, and I've done a lot of searching of the people who have walked this walk for a long time, and so that's definitely a lot of what I'm sharing. But God, you just touched on something so good, and it's such a common thing when I see these people who are like, "All right, I'm unhappy. I'm going to start doing something differently." They always look to their external environment, and working out is usually one of the first things that comes. It's like, all right, I'm getting in shape. Exercise is great, but it's just something as a culture is that we're so externally focused. So we assume that when something's going wrong or we're not fulfilled, it's like, okay, what's wrong? It's like,
well, that's what I
okay,
did.
I need a new job.
I made two massive external decisions. I made myself eat healthier, work out, like get my physical body in shape, which I never cared about in my entire life. Ate whatever I wanted to when I was younger, snack on Skittles while playing Fortnite, like massive external decision of thinking improvement. And then I also literally moved. I literally
Yeah,
switched environments thinking that that would help. And I mean, it did.
yeah,
It
it
did.
can. Yeah,
It led me to, you know, there's,
yeah,
it's a series of decisions and actions.
right. The external can go. The external totally has its place to make external changes. It has to be married with internal awareness as well, though. And it's just, yeah, you're right. It's like, oh, this environment's not going to be is not working. I'm going to switch environments because that's going to change. Or it's this job sucks. I need a new job because that's what's going to make me happier. A different girlfriend. A lot of people are like, I need a girlfriend, and then I'm going to be happy. It's all these external things. It has to come inward. Like like I think about someone who is walking through their life. Think about what's inside of them. Some people has like a golden temple inside of them. Some people are walking around with like piles of dog shit inside of them. And so the person who has a pile of dog shit inside of them, switching jobs isn't going to do anything. The pile of dog shit's still there. You start to change everything on the inside. You start to change everything on the inside. You start to feel a lot better, and it actually starts to translate into your external thing. So all these like you think you don't have the right job or whatnot. Let's work on the internal a little bit, and then let's figure it out.
Yeah. My brother, um, I was having like a huge mental breakdown at my mom's house like 2 weeks ago and was just so confused and just didn't know what to do with anything at the moment. Like, I had called you, I think, the day after when I told you I was like, I'm ready to get out of here, whatever. My brother was like, okay, Owen, I'm going to ask you a question. You got to answer it. Don't think about it. Promise me you won't think about it. Just tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. He's like, what do you want to be? He's like, what do you want to do? And I was like, artist management. He was like, boom, there you go. Like you figured out what gives you happiness. When you ask me when we have conversations, you're like, what brings you joy? And I tell you, you're like, okay, then you need to like tap into those things. Like for me, it's music, working out, spending time with loved ones, being outdoors.
Yeah,
What doesn't give me happiness is all this other stuff. So I feel like, well, I guess those are still external things, right?
sure. But yeah, keep going though. I'll respond.
Well, I just feel like identifying what makes someone, and this is for the viewers, like trying to go through what I like, how I process this is like, once I figured out like what makes me happy, I I internally shift viewpoints and habits and methods and ways of thinking to try and maximize or put myself in positions to go do those things or to be in situations, have conversations about those genuine things, if that makes any sense.
Hmm.
But then thinking about it, they're external things. So I guess you may have something different for internal, because that's difficult, obviously.
Yeah. Could you sum up that question short, like briefly, if
Like
there is a question there?
I guess I was no. I guess what
Just
is
like
the
me
diff?
critiquing your process and how I might do differently.
Well, I mean, maybe not. I just like when I was explaining my process, I what I thought was being internal things ended up being external things like music, out
Well,
being
hold
outside.
on. I got it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, what you're really talking about is finding your passion,
Yes.
or what someone might call your purpose.
Sure. What?
Let's just stick with passion because purpose gets thrown
Yeah.
around a lot. And that is something external, but it's also something internal. And so I believe that when we're doing something we're super passionate about and with something that we really love, it's actually helping us connect with ourselves even more. And to even like start the journey of finding what your passion in life, you have to have a general understanding of who you are. Most people are walking around so covered up by all these masks. It's like who they are or their connection in themselves is so deeply buried under all of these masks. And so, how are you going to find out what you're passionate about? How are you going to find your purpose if you don't even know, like, if you don't have any sort of connection to who you are? At that point, trying to find your passion is being driven by all of these beliefs about who you are, all of these beliefs about what you should do in life, right? And so I think first, I mean, you can do it, they can coexist together, but searching for what you really want to do in life, passion, and for a lot of us, that looks like what our career is. Um, it has to go along with also like maybe like connecting with ourselves because we are our own compass for what we want to do in life because our passion is an emotion, passion is a feeling. How are we going to know what we're passionate about if we're so out of connection with what we're actually feeling on the inside? And so this is kind of transitioning maybe into a little bit of a discussion on passion and purpose or whatever, which I would love to talk about because I think the younger generations and pretty much all people on earth, one of the biggest diseases we're faced with now is actually being disconnected from our sense of passion or what we really feel called to doing in life. I mean, most people are like that.
I could.
That's, I think, so much of the stress on people is like, I don't know what the fuck I want to do, or it is I'm doing something that I'm so deeply unhappy with, but I don't know what else there is. I don't know where the other door is, and so I'm just going to stay in this environment that actually is stressing me out.
It almost demotivates you to not want to try and find what makes you
Right.
happy.
Yeah. And I think like that void inside of us of being so disconnected from any sense of passion actually takes such a toll on us, like such a toll. So I
Hmm.
think that's, I mean, the whole living for the weekend. I think a lot of the void that people are feeling, a lot of the people who are in the middle of that change spectrum you talk to, who aren't at rock bottom but also aren't at the very top, I think this middle area is just full of people who are comfortably in a position in life where they're so unpassionate about what they're doing that they're not being fulfilled. Um, and so I really want to, you know, demystify your purpose a little bit. To me, your purpose is doing the thing that you are most in line with, most connected to. It's not being a superhero. It's not being a football player. It's not changing the world. It's doing what fills your cup the most. Every single person on this planet has that. Everyone on this planet has something that will fill their cup the most for them, and it's going to look different. For someone that might be owning like a flower shop, and for me, it's doing what we're talking about. And for you, it might be business management. And the thing is, it's probably going to keep changing and evolving. But I think we just really need to demystify that a little bit. And I think some people will be like, "Oh yeah, like finding your purpose, like that's kind of woo woo and crazy. Like it feels like so like out of a movie
Yeah,
almost
the two
because
words soul searching have gotten so negative or negatively and like so like,
right,
oh, he's going to soul search, like,
yeah, sounds like it's out of a movie.
yeah.
Because and why is that? Because it's so unheard of in our culture. Like meeting someone, you can literally like feel it when you're talking to them. You can feel like this like aura coming off of them. I'm like, oh shit, they really love what they're doing in life. Like you can just feel it. I think
Hmm.
everyone knows what I'm speaking to. But it's just it's so rare in our culture. So we're not exposed to that. We meet maybe like one or two people in our life who are like that. Most of us are just so disconnected from like having positive role models. Like for all of you people listening who are mostly probably our age, the thing is, our parents have not lived like this. Our parents are part of a generation that was conditioned with the same exact things that we were, basically. Our parents are not, for the most part, role models for living a passionate life. Our parents are not role models most of the time for being connected to who we are. Like they're just not. So we're kind of left like here of like, and as kids, we look to our parents for what we should do. We come into the world and we look at our environment. Our environment hands us a user manual. Think of us as a computer. We get a user manual for how to live life from our environment. And the thing is, our user manual that we have been given is not breeding happiness and connection to ourselves. And so basically, this journey is we're having to start look and read through our user manual that we've been given and actually decide for ourselves of how we want to live our lives. And we're having to look at all the ways that we're living our lives that really aren't working. Um, so I feel like I kind of got lost, but passion, purpose. It's fucking
Searching.
scary. It's
It's true.
scary. Any form of searching is scary, right? Asking those big questions we thought about scary. Even the thought of like maybe like stopping what you're doing and trying to find your passion is so fucking scary because we have been told our whole lives what we should do. We have been told that we should make money, that we should do something that our environment is validating. Most people, you go into your environment and you say, I decided that I'm going to start searching for my passion in life. Most people feel somewhat uncomfortable with that. Most people would kind of feel weird about you doing that.
Hmm.
Yeah, you got some thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that like the biggest thing that's like kind of prevented me from doing like searching is like that unknown feeling of like what like even if I don't know like what I want to do and like what I'm searching for, like I mean, I guess that is the issue. Like it'd be one thing if like it was like okay, I know what I want to do, what makes me happy and like what, fills my cup. But when you're searching, you don't know. There's an unknown.
Yeah.
And so like if someone put in front of me, if you do this or if you do these things, you will be happy forever. You will be happy. You will look everything you're doing. Of course, I do it, but like that's not how it works. Like you
Hmm.
have to go make these moves and make these things and experience life and like go through these ups and downs of the shitstorm that is the world, and you have no idea how it's gonna pan out. That's been the
Hmm.
biggest challenge for me. Like if I like what we talk about, if I were to pick up and go move another external thing, but
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck I would do in Denver, in
Yeah.
Colorado.
There's an
What's gonna make me more happy? Like maybe I go snowboard more than I can here, but like what's gonna make me more happy in Denver than in Nashville. There's something that needs to, like you said, happen before that. Like there needs to be an internal realization of what gives me purpose, what fills my
okay.
cup, and then I can figure out where I want to be, what I want to do, how that all looks like. And I feel like a lot of people, when they do this kind of searching, expect to really quickly understand that. And I've come to realize that it's going to be a lifelong, probably a lifelong journey until the
It
day I
it
die.
it is.
And
Totally is.
which is, I'm honestly kind of very excited because I literally, like, it's weird. Like, life is like this all the time. Like, literally, a day can be up here and then another day can be right there. During this up day, you could be way down here and the same day that you're way up here. So like going through life and just trying to figure out the kinks and everything and having these conversations, real conversations with people you love and like
Yeah.
trying to get to the base of who you are and what makes you, what gives you purpose is so fulfilling in and of itself.
Mm. Hmm.
Like just
Yeah.
being on the path is fulfilling. Maybe you're not fast runner on the path, or you're not willing to take more daring detours or shortcuts, but just being on the path is something that I would recommend to people because it opens up a lot of different ways of thinking and a lot of positive, um, you know,
Yeah.
lifestyle changes, mental changes that you can take forward with you.
Hmm. It is a lifelong thing.
Yup.
You are not gonna find one day like, oh shit, all right, I found myself. I can go back to the other way of living because I found myself now.
No, I know. I've
It's
realized that's not going to happen.
yeah, that's not the case. And but boy, is it worth it? I mean, it is entirely an experiential thing that you're gonna have to experience to really understand this for yourself. But like, it is so. I can't even put like a number to it of how fulfilling life is when you actually start tuning into what's going on. And so to say that it's worth it is an understatement. And I think you can go interview anyone ever on the path is will say the same thing.
I got to say something real quick because I think that if you go ask someone, um, who we would consider in that kind of middle area, like you ask them, hey, what do you like? What are you grateful for? What are you loving? Like, what do you, what makes you happy? What are you thankful for in your life in a given day? A lot of them would be like, having a car, house, money, whatever. Once I kind of started to make this like switch, I'll tell you, dude, the greatest thing that I think I like, most thing that I am grateful for in my entire life is waking up in the morning.
Mm,
It is one of the greatest feelings in the world, is to spend another day on Earth, regardless of how shitty it is. Just being able to be a human and experience life in and of itself is just so crazy and so wonderful. Trust me,
mm,
I have shitty days. Don't get me wrong. I
mm.
have horrible days where I want to curl up in a ball, put a blanket over, and fall asleep all day.
Yeah.
But even those days are better than if I didn't have a day, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So like,
Or, sorry, go ahead.
no, I'm just saying. So like, I think that like once I did take that journey step, is you start like you said, you look at life in such a different way. You look at
Yeah.
these connections, conversations, with your family, with your friends, as so more impactful. Like you said, our brains are so malleable, and when you use that malleability to your advantage, it really is makes a positive change on your mental health.
Mm, hmm. Love that so much. Yeah. We are so malleable as humans. Our habits, everything. And so those same parts of our brain that I talked to you about that are the comfort seeking parts of us that will resist doing anything different, changing habits, uncomfortability, those are malleable too. And we don't have to be at the mercy of them. We can actually start to change our relationship with uncomfortability.
Cold exposure.
I do it every day.
I
Like
Yeah.
it, it, it every time that you feel an emotion that's hard to feel, acknowledging that I feel lonely as fuck sometimes is so uncomfortable.
Do you
But
remember
it's
when I had that conversation with you? And I was I you were I don't know if you it was probably 2 months ago, but I was having a really rough day, and I called you, and you were like just sit with it,
mm,
and I did, and I literally just laid down, and I was like, God, I feel horrible. And you and,
yeah.
and you were like, yeah, I bet you
I
do.
was
Just
probably like celebrating on
you
my like
were
fuck yeah you do.
yeah, you were like just sit with it all day, and I was like, I'm doing it right now. And then I think I stayed on the phone for like 3 or 4 minutes and just like kind of closed my eyes and like kind of just sat there and realized what I was feeling. And then I kind of popped up for a second, and I like was still on the phone with you, and I was like, yo, no, I just really took all that in,
Mm,
and it was
mm-hmm.
like very beneficial to like be like, okay, this is not a feeling I want to be comfortable with.
Yeah.
I need to actively do something to try and not have that happen again,
Right. Yes.
internally.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. emotions is a whole other avenue that we'll
Yeah.
probably go down in another podcast. But yeah, that's a great example. And oh my God, I mean, that's what most people are doing. They're so terrified of some of those emotions. They think they're just going to be swallowed up by it, and they think they'll just be a lonely person
Or they get the if you go
like
ask someone, they're like, "Fuck that," like let's go
yeah,
out.
yeah, right. Yeah, and it's like, what is a strong man? We're told from a young age, don't be a pussy, right? You want to be strong. Like, it's almost like a strong man in our culture is like someone who can handle anything, right? Like to go through anything untouched.
Show no emotion. That is
Right.
literally that is
To
the
show no
show
emotion.
no emotion.
What is the hardest thing to do though is to actually allow yourself to feel those emotions, to be vulnerable with those emotions. Like you think you're tough, you think emotions are soft, go up to your best friend and tell them how you really feel on the inside when you're having a shitty day. You will feel so uncomfortable. That is what it means to be strong. Like it's being able to navigate those places and still hold yourself and know that you're going to be okay. Um, and so emotions is an amazing example of how we seek comfort. And it actually does not make sense. The people who are constantly caught in their mind trying to rationalize everything they do, who are so disconnected from any sort of feeling, how do you rationalize allowing yourself to feel super shitty? It makes no sense. To your mind, it's like, oh, I need to avoid that because that's uncomfortable as hell. It makes no sense. To like our mind thinks we should just be running away from our emotions because why would we go towards something that's painful? Like rationally, that makes no sense. We should be avoiding pain, right? We should be avoiding pain and pursuing pleasure. That's what our rational brain thinks. But that's not how emotions work. When we try and run away from emotions, they don't just walk away. They sit inside of our body until we feel them. And God, there's a long laundry list of the way that those emotions are affecting us that we don't feel. I mean, physical sickness is a huge one that is like coming through in a lot of scientific literature right now of like holy fuck emotion like emotions are 100% causing certain sicknesses, like the result of like years and years of emotions that we have never felt is just sitting right inside of us.
I'm sure when you have
So
all those cortisol levels are just through the roof, if you're stressed out, you may be stressed out because you're depressed.
right,
like,
totally. So that's a whole other can of worms. But just to go back to what you were saying with the waves of life, I love thinking about that like that. And you know what a governor is on a car, like the
yeah.
thing that reduces the speed.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the way that I've been thinking a lot about people, most people right now, where they're all living with governor modules on life, and so they are literally reducing the speed. And when I say speed, I think about we're all vehicles driving around in life. And with these governors on, we're reducing how fast we can drive our cars. We're reducing we're reducing like the spectrum of life that we're living. It's like it's like yeah, I mean you see what I'm saying? It's like we're reducing the horizon of life for us.
The
We're
distance you
we're
could go.
reducing our own experience of life. It's like we're experiencing like half the life we could. And so instead of like this, I think about most people who are trying to flatline. We're trying to stay at this equilibrium of comfortability, right? And so it's like I'm not going to feel really good, but I'm also not going to feel really bad. What I'm going to do is put on all these masks and just try and feel and force myself to just feel a certain way. And so I'm going to go through my work week where I feel super horrible and unfulfilled with my job. I'm not going to feel that though. And then I'm going to go out on the weekends and get hammered with people. And I'm really not. I mean, I'm going to think that I feel really good and happy, but really I'm just kind of I'm just experiencing the effects of alcohol with friends. And so when we remove the governors on our life of which is all of this control, right? All of this control of just trying to stay in this little box of comfortability. We start to experience it like this. And so yeah, the fucking peaks are so much higher. We feel like we're amazing and we allow ourselves to go down here. But the thing is, we're scared of we're scared of we're scared of the valleys, and so that's why we try and stay at a flat line because we'd rather be at a flat line than have to deal with these valleys. But going back to what I was saying, uncomfortability, nothing is uncomfortable in its nature. It is uncomfortable because of our reaction to it. two people go skydiving, one person's like glued to the seat and is horrified, one person's excited. Like, it's not that skydiving's uncomfortable. It's our reaction to things that make them uncomfortable. So over time, as we start to, as you like, what happened when you sat with your loneliness? After, you're like, wow, it like it's gone. Like, that's what happens when I just allow myself to feel emotion. We start to have these experiences of realizing, like, okay, the world's not ending when I go down to these valleys, and that I will come back up. We start to reestablish our relationship to these valleys, and over time they're not very uncomfortable. Over time we can see the peaks and the valleys, we can see them both just as another experience of life, and that I couldn't have the peaks if I didn't have the valleys.
I thought about that the other day when I was like, it was raining, and like, for me, I'm just someone who, like, the weather really genuinely like affects my mental state every day, and it kind of somewhat puts me in this like weird mental state where I'm like sad, and I was like, oh, I wish it was never rainy all the time, or I wish it like would stop raining and it was just sunny all the time. But then I
Mm-hmm.
was like, if it's sunny all the time, you're gonna get desensitized to the sun, and it's not gonna feel the same anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like, if I don't have those rainy days where I'm kind of, upset or something maybe have gone wrong or whatever, then like you said, those peaks are not going to feel. It's going to start to
Totally.
crunch down.
Right.
Excuse me,
It's,
I don't know why I'm.
we need polarity to be able to appreciate both sides of it.
Yeah,
um, and I think one more thing that I want to touch on with what you were saying about how it's fucking terrifying to like leap into that unknown of like finding passion and purpose. um, is it's like, there's going to be so much resistance with like, well, what if this isn't actually my purpose, and what if I mess up, what if I make the wrong decision, what if my parents don't accept me, what if I make this leap and then end up broke on the streets, like all these what ifs. And I'm not going to go into religion or anything, but I do want to say, and I'm not going to talk about what I believe, but like, I will say that I 100% believe that there is a higher intelligence in this existence.
no
and
offense to
i
anyone
and I,
listening, but if you don't think that,
and,
we gotta
and,
work on something.
and I believe, well, yes, but also it's like in the culture we live in, there's very little exposure to any sort of connection to that.
Yeah,
What is our options in our culture? It's go and sit in a church, and you see the statistics of the number of people who are leaving like organized religion in that way. It's very high. People are not finding that connection there, which is a whole other can of worms. And I'm not bashing on that, but um, but anyway, going back to what I was saying, and I believe this higher intelligence has the highest interest for life, for us, has the best, has like is loving in nature. So do you believe that this higher intelligence is going to support you in living really unfulfilled life with all of your masks on and really just flatline, or is it going to support you in stepping more into who you are, living a life that's more in connection with your passion? It's like the latter every time.
yeah, it's why we
And
feel
so
good when we see
it's
good
it's
things.
it's like it's easy to say that I trust in God or whatever, but like, do you really trust in God? Because for me at least, it's like I believe that as I'm walking this walk, that there is something greater than me that's actually supporting me becoming more of who I am. That is supporting me, that is doing something that is more in harmony with who I am. Because when you are doing something that is in harmony with who you are, which is another way of saying that's just very much in line with your passion, you're making the world a better place. Our passion is, I think, such a big connection to our levels of happiness, our levels of fulfillment. And I think when we're doing something that is deeply passionate for us, we're doing something that's in service to this earth.
I would agree.
So, um, yeah,
That's why you look at people who, you know, are just awesome people. They make other people feel good.
yeah,
Like
totally. We're
like
gonna
how
show up better for ourselves, for our environment, for our girlfriend, for our family.
yeah, it's like at some point, like, you yeah, like you're doing that for not only yourself but for the people who you affect in this world. Because who wants to go live a life where you just leave a really shitty impact on someone? It's like I don't
Yeah,
really want to honestly leave a shitty impact towards anyone. Like I want people to be like, Owen Kaufman, that guy's awesome. He's a great guy. I love talking to him. Like blah blah blah.
yeah,
But dude, it's already we
yeah.
crammed through that.
Well, the couple other things I just want to quickly touch on,
No, you're
but
good.
it's really good stuff. I think because I want to like give people more of like concrete ways of actually starting to navigate these waters. Um,
We
but
could
I
make
think,
that a whole thing, honestly.
yeah,
Not
but
even
I think
lying. We could keep doing
we can
these.
touch on a couple things here. But I think something that is really important is like the thing that you're doing the most of, and for a lot of people, it's their how they're making their money in life, their income, their career. Asking yourself like, do I majority of the time like do I feel like fulfilled and like my cup is kind of being do I feel like my cup is being filled by what I'm doing, or does it feel like it's deeply draining me and like leaving me worse? I think that's a really important guiding question. Um, so in terms of like how to actually approach some of this in your daily life, and I want to say it doesn't have to be a 180-degree shift. Some people do it that way. Just take a couple things from this conversation and start integrating them. You can stay in your exact environment of being comfortability, but let's maybe like peel a couple layers of like the masks. Um, and so awareness is the guiding light for all of this. And what I mean, awareness is literally like where we're putting our attention. Can we start to just put some of our attention to what's going on inside of us, to what's happening in our daily lives? Did I did I feel fulfilled by that interaction with that person? Wait, or you might notice like what I just said. I just noticed that did not feel right. Like you'll start noticing these things. It's like as you just start putting more attention here, it's like a snowball that will keep rolling. Things will just start naturally showing up. You'll start noticing things. Oh wow, I actually like feel like when I'm around this person, I'm really seeking for their validation. Um, yeah, you'll just start noticing like, wow, I realize when I'm around these people, I seek so much validation from
Hmm.
them. It's like we don't have to go outside of us to search for all the stuff we're talking about. It is all right here happening every breath that we take. So just start noticing. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I've noticed that through this, there's a lot of people who I thought I used to be really good friends with, and then I realized I had no idea why I would be spending time with those people.
yeah,
Like they're not pushing me to be a better person. If anything, they're pulling me down. So,
hmm yeah,
but yeah, we need to we can do
yeah.
we
Another
no go ahead.
another thing is just our uncomfortable edges are everywhere. It's very easy to notice when I feel uncomfortable.
Oh
And
yeah.
so if we can start to just reestablish our relationship with some of that as like, okay, maybe I'm just gonna like experiment with like leaning into this edge a little bit. Maybe I'll go to this some event that like I usually would never go to and think is weird and oh wow, like I really enjoyed that and like I came out and I actually feel really good. It's like that is an example of just like reestablishing uncomfortability. Or maybe it's like a best friend of yours that you've never really actually shared something really deep and vulnerable and just barely scratching the surface and sharing just a little thing. I can't tell you how many people I've done that with that I never thought I could have, and then they end up being able to open up. It's like you're starting to open up these doors in the relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would love to talk about self love a little bit and acceptance. We can definitely go deeper into that on another podcast. But another thing with this is like, first of all, ask the big questions we talked about. That is like you need to do that, and just starting to get comfortable with those questions is a huge edge I think for a lot of people. Um, and also self love. Like I think it's easy to talk about loving someone else, but like, do you love yourself? For a lot of people, that's a really uncomfortable question. And I think a lot of people didn't even know that was possible. It's like, wait, I can actually love myself. Like, isn't that a little selfish or something? And I remember the first time I looked at myself in the mirror after learning about self love, like senior year of high school. I was just like, looked in the mirror and I was like, do I love myself? Do I love you? It's like, I was like, holy shit. I couldn't say yes.
Yeah.
And, you know, just, just starting to, I think, just starting to accept yourself. and know you've done the best with what you've done the best with what you had. Every experience with all the environmental conditioning, with growing up in this culture, growing up in a fucking hard time on earth, we have always done the best with what we had. And so, setting some forgiveness there, accepting that, and then also realizing like, and I don't have to live this way anymore. There is another way. And it's not some cult or some other tribe we're trying to recruit you to. I just want you to be more of who you are. I just want to feel more of you.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's a good spot to leave. You
Yeah.
know.
Well, we me and Blake have a few more topics. Obviously, we touched on the porn topic,
The
which
P word.
the
Oh
P
God.
word, which we episode on
Yeah.
that, episode on self love. We can do an episode where Blake explains a lot of like actual like things of how you can kind of become more centered with yourself, like breath work, meditation, stuff like that. Right, Blake?
Yes, and I don't want to turn people off by saying I'm just going to tell you how to meditate.
No, yeah, no, I'm not talking
Um,
about that. Just like
yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
There's so many practical ways of like actually learning how to connect with yourself, but outside of all those exercises, it's just tuning in and saying, okay, how am I doing in this moment? How do I feel right now? Like you don't have to do all these mystical exercises like breath work and meditation. It's as simple as carrying that in your back pocket of I'm gonna check in with myself throughout this day and just notice how I'm feeling.
but doing that breath work and meditation can help you
Oh,
get to a spot that allows you
it'll
to.
help so much.
Yeah, that's what I was
So
saying.
many other things and really any way of connecting with yourself. But I did just want to like uh, drop in there at the end that I love connecting with people who are on this path and who are wanting to do this work, and even people who just want to pick my brain or ask questions and or just be heard. So please reach out. Maybe we can like link my email or something in the show notes.
Yeah, I could put your email or in your Instagram.
I'm working on a website right now, but that's not ready. And I also see clients. So if you're feeling like I really want to like fucking start doing some of this work in a bigger way and like reach out and yeah, just please reach out.
Hell yeah,
It's a growing family, so yeah,
for sure.
we need all the people doing this work that we can get.
Well, there we go. Episode 3 complete. Blake, thanks.
It's a pleasure, brother.
Good talk. There will be more for sure.
Ask questions. What do you want to hear?
Yeah, let us know in the comments, guys, if you want to hear, um, you know, what you want to see me and Blake talk about, because I think me and Blake both have really good things to say when it comes to self help. Because Blake's taken a path and I've taken a different path, but it's all on the same path. So, two different lifestyles that can try and help you become someone you want to be. But yeah, episode 3, Blake, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.